It's the dramatic end to a competitive and controversial weekend for Mac Beggs. The 17-year-old Dallas area high school student won the title of champion in the girls' state wrestling competition Saturday. A mix of cheers and boos directed at the wrestler as he fell to his knees, appearing to soak in the wind. Many in the audience feel Beggs has an unfair advantage on the road to victory. Beggs is a transgender athlete, born a girl, transitioning to become a boy. He takes testosterone injections to make that transition happen. Many believe that provides the young wrestler with an added competitive edge. His strength and agility are hard to miss on the mat.
So there's a big issue right now, right? And I think if he has been taking hormones or steroids, he should be wrestling boys.
That can't happen, though, according to the University Interscholastic League, which oversees public high school athletics. Current UIL rules state boys may not wrestle against girls and vice versa, and gender shall be determined based on a student's birth certificate. For Beggs, that means he's got no choice but to wrestle girls.
Change. That's what some are calling for after two transgender teens swept events during last week's track and field state championship.
One of the other girls who competed and her mother say the pair had an unfair advantage and that it's time for the governing body of the high school athletics to change their rules. Newsay's Amy Hudak tells us about the petition they started. Amy?
The rule for high school athletics is that the student can compete for the gender-specific sport they identify with. One parent who started a petition says she doesn't necessarily want to reverse the policy. She actually wants to add to it. Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood smoked the competition at last week's state championships for track and field.
When you look at the competitions and they turn into a complete blowout, you realize that something is different.
Miller and Yearwood are both transgender. Born boys, they raced against the girls. Selena Sewell competed with them and says it's an unfair advantage.
I have no problem with them being a girl and wanting to be a girl. My issue is with CAC.
The CIAC says their policy follows state law. Teens can compete for the team they gender identify with.
Back to the Very Easy Show. On today's show, I have a special guest by the name of Keith Travis. He's an athletic trainer here in the North Carolina area. Fabulous guy. He knows a lot of information about what he's talking about. And on today's show, why I brought him on is we're asking the question: is it fair for somebody who's transgender to be able to compete in a athletic sport that the gender they was not born? Basically, is it right for men to compete with girls? And my thing would be no, it's not. Because it's just something about the male body and the woman body that's different. So I may have Keith to break it down for me. How you doing, Keith?
Doing good.
Glad to have you today.
Appreciate you having me.
So with the subject, with the question about men competing with women, saying they're transgender, with the guy that was running track that was on Facebook competing and winning races, was that fair?
No, not at all. Those parents have a right to be upset. You put yourself in those shoes of those parents and their daughter. Their daughter developed as a female, which developing as a female means you have a lot less free testosterone in your body and a lot more estrogen. So a male who has developed all his life as a male, whether he identifies with that or not, he has developed physically as a male, has a distinct physical advantage over the females in the female sport. So no, that's not fair at all.
So do we think with him winning, he competed as a boy earlier that day. He competed with the men, and he came back and competed with the women. As somebody that was over that race, over that event, do you think they should have stopped that, or was it cool for them to let that go on? I mean, you would think he competed with men, so that's going to give you a clear advantage over the women.
Right. No, yeah, that definitely should have been stopped. I mean, that's almost like running the same event twice.
True.
So you don't get two chances in a state championship, so to speak, let alone with different biological genders.
Right.
So those girls were at an unfair disadvantage. Which, and you look even further along, because this boy identifies as a girl and managed to win these state championships. Now you have a group of girls that potentially aren't going to maybe get those college scholarships.
Yes.
You know, because they don't have that one tick on their record, you know, that state championship or something. So that's very unfair to those competitors.
Right.
And then, you know, it brings up another question. All right, you know, 2-time state championship in girls track. Now we're going to offer an athlete who is, again, developed biologically as a male.
Thank you.
We're going to offer him a girls scholarship. How is that even compliant with like a Title IX situation?
Good question.
Some questions we got to ask.
That is. Because I was thinking the same thing. Like, now you're taking away the same thing they're arguing for. Now we're taking away from these girls. You're arguing for a fair shot. You're arguing for a fair chance. But how's it really fair to these girls that's losing out? So the next thing is we're talking about transgenders, PEDs. And the reason why PEDs come into place, we have a girl who was wrestling. And she was competing for states and going to the playoffs and how that goes. But she's identified as a guy taking PEDs to compete with the guys. So is that even fair to the guys that she's taking PEDs to compete?
No, I mean, we have weight classes for a reason.
Okay.
So if she's on hormonal therapy to get close to being a male somehow, some way, then, you know, feasibly, to be fair, you would let her competition use some sort of free testosterone booster. However, that is a performance-enhancing drug. And granted, there is many classifications, again, of performance enhancers. But anabolic steroids in particular have an end goal of increasing your free testosterone. You can see a lot of examples of that in female bodybuilding.
True.
Females naturally don't have that much testosterone and can't get that lean muscle mass, not to mention the bulk. So what do a lot of them do? And I'm not saying they all do by any means, but what do a lot of them do? They supplement in some way their testosterone that enables them to bulk up and build more masculine bodies.
And I do know some people would say, well, even though she's taking it, she still probably could not beat the strongest man, or they probably still could not outrun the strongest man. What is your thing to that? What would be your suggestion to that, though?
In wrestling, again, you go back to a weight class. You know, you only weigh so much, so you only have so much free body mass, lean body mass. Excuse me. So I think that's irrelevant. Yes, you know, in its simplicity, sure, that's true. We wouldn't put her against a heavyweight wrestler.
Right.
Of course she's going to lose. Well, of course that 130-pound male athlete is going to lose to a heavyweight as well. So I think that's a wash.
So the question I have, and this is a question for you, America, this is a question for Keith, question for anybody. Has America went too far trying to be political correct about this whole situation? Are we going to the danger zone of what's right? Because now I think we walk into other elements where we're not teaching kids really how to compete on a real competitive basis. But now you have to basically cheat to get to where you're going. That's basically what we're showing this girl by her taking it. She's actually cheating. Granted, we're going to classify it as, hey, well, you're trying to be a guy, you did build your testosterone up. That's baloney. And that's just my take on that. But I don't know what else we can really do. I mean, is it fair? No, it's not fair. I'll say that. It's not fair at all.
No, it's not fair, and that's the reason we do have rules against performance-enhancing drugs. You can take this girl trying to compete in a male sport, which I'm not against by any means. But, you know, let's think about some other females. Well, they could definitely gain advantage in their own way.
Right.
By being allowed to take these substances. I'm not advocating for that at all. But it was good for the goose is good for the gander. So, you know, we're really, really teaching them that, you know, it doesn't matter about the rules. We can just bend them to meet your needs. And that's not the essence of a rule.
And for women for girls that's taking PEDs to build their testosterone up, are there any danger that come with that to the body?
Well, you know, when you talk about hormonal therapy, and by no means am I an expert in that regard, but when you talk about increasing free testosterone levels, there is risks of increased heart size, hypertrophy, if you will, which down the road may lead to certain cardiac deficits and problems in that regard. You also look at your traditional injuries that come with abuse of steroids or abuse of testosterone, and that, you know, weakening of muscles, ligaments. So you're at risk of further damaging muscles, tearing biceps and quads and all these different things because you've weakened your structure.
So even though we say it should be fair or unfair for girls to take PEDs, that's some dangers that come with it. So you may want to be mindful of that. Hey, it's been another great show. I would like to personally thank Keith for coming on, showing his insight on the use of PEDs. Is it fair? Should men compete with girls? I'm definitely going to say no. I come through an age where, hey, you compete with what you was born with. If you was born a man, you compete with the men. You were born a woman, you was compete as a woman. And Keith brought up an excellent point about this whole thing with Title IX. If you don't know what it is, go research it. It was put in place for women to have a chance to be able to make their mark in the sports world or just in the world, period. So I really think we're crossing some thin lines here by letting it happen. But that's my take on it. Thanks for joining the Darius Lindsay Show. See you next time. See you later.